The aroma of roasted chicken fills the air as I hurry around the kitchen. I want everything to be flawless tonight. It's our 5th wedding anniversary and I've planned a romantic, candlelit dinner to celebrate. Glancing at the clock, I realize my husband Daniel will be home soon. I give the dining room one final check, lighting the candles and dimming the lights to set the mood. As I carefully lay out the fine china and polished silverware, my mind drifts to memories of our relationship. We met 7 years ago at a mutual friend's party. Daniel had just started a new executive position at a prestigious financial firm in the city. With his tailored suits and smooth confidence, he captivated all the women there. But I was the one he pursued that night, drawn in by my quick wit and adventurous spirit. Our courtship was exhilarating, lavish trips, cozy weekends at quaint inns, and evenings spent cuddled up together under the stars, sharing our hopes for the future. Daniel was meticulous about planning romantic surprises for me. For my last birthday, he filled our apartment with hundreds of crimson roses. It was easy to get caught up in his world. On our 3rd anniversary, he proposed at sunset on a secluded beach. As I gazed into his piercing sapphire eyes brimming with adoration, I knew this was the man I wanted to spend my life with. Our fairy tale wedding was filled with joyful tears from friends and family. In the early years, our marriage was blissful. I eventually opened a charming bookshop downtown while Daniel swiftly climbed the corporate ladder. We built a beautiful life together in our idyllic suburban home, bonding over our shared passions for travel, gourmet cooking, and dreams of one day starting a family. But lately, something seems off. The gleam in Daniel's eyes has faded. His laugh doesn't quite brighten up a room like it used to. Our conversations feel more strained and I can't remember the last time he spontaneously whisked me away for a romantic evening out. A creeping unease has woven its way into my heart. I've started questioning if this structured life is all I want. As I approach 30, pangs of regret emerge that my carefree youthful days are behind me. The comfort and security Daniel provides now feels confining, like gilded handcuffs I willingly slipped on. I yearn for the excitement and spontaneity of my unmarried life. I sigh, pushing these unsettling thoughts aside, and light the final candle. The table is set flawlessly. Just then, the doorbell rings, jolting me from my preparations. Who could that be? Daniel has his own key and isn't expecting any guests. I open the door to find a uniformed police officer standing solemnly on our doorstep. "Mrs. Emily Walker," he asks gravely. I nod, confused. "I'm Officer Richardson with the local police department. I'm afraid I have some very troubling news. There's been an accident." As the officer continues speaking, his words fade into a muffled hum. Daniel is dead. A drunk driver collided head-on with his car on the way home. I grip the door frame to steady myself, vision blurring, trying to make sense of this. "I'm truly very sorry for your loss, ma'am," Officer Richardson says gently. "We're doing everything we can in this investigation. Here's my card if you need anything further." I stand frozen in disbelief. This can't be real. Just as the officer turns to leave, movement inside the house catches my eye. Daniel saunters casually into the dining room, humming to himself. My heart stops as he smiles at me, eyes twinkling like they used to. "Who was that at the door, honey?" "Wow, something smells amazing," Daniel says, coming over to give me a quick peck on the cheek. How are you here right now?" I stammer. Daniel's brow furrows, confused. "What do you mean?" "I just got home from work. Is everything okay?" My mind reels. Could that have all been in my imagination? I slowly recover my composure, mumbling something about a concerned neighbor stopping by. Daniel brushes it off cheerfully and sits down at the meticulously set table. "This looks incredible, babe. You've really outdone yourself tonight," he beams, heaping chicken and potatoes onto his plate. I force a smile and join him at the table, but can barely eat. Something is very wrong here. I study Daniel closely as he raves about the food, but he seems just as he always has. Still, I can't erase the chilling image of Officer Richardson from my mind. Daniel grins at me again, but this time, something about his smile seems off. His lips curl up a touch too far, and his eyes have an odd empty quality. Goosebumps prickle my skin. I shake off the feeling and try to enjoy our anniversary dinner, pushing away the strange incident. Chapter 2. Over the next few weeks, I feel increasingly uneasy. Daniel acts normally, oblivious to my restlessness. But occasionally I'll catch him watching me with that same hollow grin, his icy blue eyes cutting right through me. I can't shake the feeling of being observed, even when Daniel isn't home. I start double-checking the locks on all the doors and windows before bed. One evening while cooking dinner, the kitchen lights begin flickering. I stop what I'm doing, waiting for them to turn back on. Suddenly, a whispered voice comes from right behind me. "Why?" it hisses. I whirl around, but no one is there. The lights stop blinking. I stand frozen, heartbeat thundering. Did I imagine that? Hands shaking, I eventually resume cooking, peering nervously around. Later that night, I'm startled awake by the sound of footsteps creaking outside the bedroom. I nudge Daniel awake. "Did you hear that?" "I think someone's inside." I whisper anxiously. Daniel mumbles sleepily that it's just the old house settling and pulls me back into his arms. But I lie awake, unable to escape the lurking feeling of prying eyes tracking my every move. The next morning over coffee, Daniel comments I've seemed preoccupied lately. I brush it off as stress from work. As he kisses me goodbye, I notice that disturbing empty look in his eyes again. A chill runs down my spine. Something is very, very wrong here. Over the next few weeks, the bizarre events escalate. Whispers and fleeting shadows just outside my line of sight. Hurried footsteps descending the stairs when I know no one else is home. One night I awake to see Daniel's silhouette standing motionless at the foot of our bed, watching me. When I scream and turn on the light, he's gone. I feel like I'm coming undone. I stop going into work, consumed by paranoia and a suffocating sense of being haunted. Daniel grows increasingly concerned and suggests I see a doctor, but I know no doctor can explain this creeping horror. I rack my brain trying to understand what's happening. Eventually my thoughts drift back to that night, Officer Richardson at my door with news of Daniel's death. But he wasn't dead. Was he? Confusion overwhelms me. I need answers. The next evening when Daniel returns home from work, I confront him in the kitchen. "Something is very wrong here. You died, weeks ago in a car crash. I need you to tell me what's happening." I cry out. Daniel looks back at me calmly. Slowly, he begins to chuckle. A bone-chilling, sinister laugh. His features contort into a terrifying grin. "What's the matter, Emily? You seem so surprised to see me," he says, advancing towards me. "Don't you remember what you did?" I back away, heartbeat racing. "What are you talking about? I don't understand." Daniel's eyes flash menacingly. "Let me help jog your memory." The kitchen melts away. I'm in the passenger seat of a car, watching a shadowy figure tampering with the brakes. I gasp, it's Daniel's car. The scene changes, showing me meeting this man, slipping him an envelope of cash. Suddenly it all comes flooding back in a rush of memories. I had planned this. Planned a way out of my stifling marriage. I had hired someone to cut Daniel's brake lines, staged an accident. I remember the relief I felt hearing that knock from Officer Richardson, telling me I was finally free. The kitchen comes back into focus. Daniel, or whatever sinister presence has assumed his form, looms towards me with a twisted grin. "Now do you remember? You wanted me gone. Wanted a way out," he hisses. "Well, here I am. His face morphs into a revolting mask and he lunges for me. I scream and sprint upstairs to the bedroom, slamming the door closed. Cowering in the corner, I listen to heavy footsteps slowly climbing the stairs after me. The doorknob rattles violently. Daniel's sing-song voice drifts in from the hall. No, now something sinister has followed me home from the depths of my deceit that horrific night. It has taken Daniel's form to taunt me, feeding on my festering guilt. Emily, open the door. Don't you want to see your dear husband? I squeeze my eyes shut, whimpering as the door shakes on its hinges. After what feels like an eternity, the rattling stops. I wait a few more agonizing moments before cautiously opening my eyes. No one is there. Carefully, I open the bedroom door, scanning the hallway. Nothing but empty corridors. But I can't escape the lingering feeling that whatever has been tormenting me is still lurking nearby. Chapter 3. Over the next few days I rarely leave my bedroom, jumping at every creak and shadow. 1 week after the bedroom incident, I decide I have to get out of this house. I start hastily packing a suitcase, anxiously checking over my shoulder. As I zip up the bag, I turn and come face to face with Daniel leering at me, eyes hollow and mouth twisted into a nightmarish grin. Leaving so soon, he rasps, grabbing my shoulders roughly. You wanted me gone, and now I'll never leave you alone. He melts into a putrid black fog that engulfs me, flooding down my throat and choking the air from my lungs. I collapse, gasping for air. The foul-smelling smoke seeps into my skin, coursing through my veins until everything goes black. I wake with a start on the bedroom floor, drenched in sweat. Trembling, I look around the room. I seem to be alone again, but I can't trust my senses anymore. I shove some clothes haphazardly into my suitcase and flee the house, driving until I reach a rundown motel on the edge of town. That night, as I try to sleep, the whispers return. Daniel's voice floods my mind, reminding me I can never outrun what I've done. Over the next year I drift between dingy motels, constantly glancing over my shoulder, never feeling safe. Daniel lurks in every shadow, every stranger that passes by. One night in another motel room, I turn on the TV needing a distraction from my gnawing guilt. A holiday ad flashes on the screen showing happy families celebrating together in cozy suburban homes. The dingy walls suddenly close in on me. This is no life at all. I yearn for my old reality, before everything went so horribly wrong. Before I let bitterness poison my soul that wretched night. Overwhelmed with despair, I step outside into the cool night air. I gaze up at the sea of glittering stars, their majestic beauty only amplifying my loneliness and shame. Forgive me, Daniel, for what I've done, I whisper into the silence. I'm so sorry. The sound of approaching footsteps behind me makes me spin around with a start. A squat, shadowy figure stands before me. As he steps into a pool of light, I see it's Officer Richardson, the man who told me Daniel had died. But then it wasn't Daniel's voice that came out when he opened his mouth to speak. It was a sing-song voice that chills me to the bone. You can never take it back, Emily. What's done is done. The officer gives me a revolting grin. I fall to my knees, finally broken. The full weight of my sins crashes down upon me. You're right, Daniel. Or, whatever you are, I sob. The officer vanishes, leaving me alone under the cold and distant stars. But I know I'm not truly alone. A piece of Daniel lives inside me now, poisoning my thoughts, my very soul. This will be my punishment, never finding peace, always haunted by the restless, vengeful spirit I unleashed through my selfish actions. I look up at the stars one last time, their beauty now a mockery of my loneliness and shame. The bed I've made for myself is one of nightmares, of being endlessly hunted. And in it I must lie, for as long as I live. Chapter 4. I jolt awake to the sound of screams piercing the night. Disoriented, I look around a seedy motel room bathed in the red neon glow from the vacancy sign outside. Just another nightmare. I fumble for the bedside lamp, flooding the room with sickly yellow light. Pulling my knees to my chest, I slowly get my breathing under control. Glancing at the glowing red numbers on the clock, I see it's just past 3 a.m. I know more sleep will elude me tonight. Sleep has barely come since that fateful evening 1 year ago when I slipped an envelope of cash into the hands of a shadowy figure in a darkened parking lot. Rising from the lumpy mattress, I shuffle to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. The ghastly pale, hollow-eyed woman staring back at me in the mirror is someone I barely recognize. My unkempt hair hangs limply around a face aged well beyond my 30 years. Dark circles underscore my dull eyes. This mournful ghost is the shell of the bright, confident woman I used to be. I reach for the bottle of pills the doctor prescribed to help me sleep. He couldn't even begin to comprehend the monsters that haunt my dreams. No medicine can silence their restless torment. 2 pills, maybe 3, might grant me a couple more hours of unconsciousness tonight. I fill a grimy plastic cup with water and swallow them down. Climbing back into bed, I close my eyes hoping for the pills to take effect. But behind my lids, I see Daniel's handsome, grinning face morph into a hideous leering mask as it did that horrific night 1 year ago. My eyes snap open with a gasp, heart racing. I know more visions await me tonight. Sleep eventually comes just as the sky lightens before dawn. But it brings no peace. I find myself back in our beautiful suburban home, cheerfully preparing dinner in the kitchen. But I'm not alone. Daniel is with me, helping stir a pot on the stove. He smiles down at me, the adoring way he used to, pulling me into an embrace. For a blissful moment it's like the past year of nightmares never happened. I cling to him, flooded with euphoria at having my husband back. But something feels off. Looking up into Daniel's face, I see his cheerful grin has twisted into a gnarled sneer. Those eyes that used to sparkle with warmth now gleam with malevolence. He roughly shoves me away as his face melts into a hideous black mass with empty, glowing eyes. "You took everything from me," the specter roars in Daniel's voice. "Now I'll take everything from you." The kitchen erupts into flames and a howling windstorm tears through the house. I'm knocked off my feet as windows explode and walls come crumbling down. The snarling demon looms above me through the chaos. I scream as the floorboards give way and I'm plunging into a bottomless abyss. I awake drenched in sweat, breath coming in strangled gasps. The digital clock reads 7:03 a.m. Pale morning light filters through grimy curtains. I slowly regain my composure, realizing I'm still in this dingy motel room, not trapped in the nightmarish ruins of our old house. After a long, scalding shower, I head out to a nearby diner for some coffee, hoping it will burn away the aftertaste of those pills. The place is mostly empty except for a few zombie-like patrons staring blankly into mugs, not unlike myself. Taking a seat in a corner booth, I keep my eyes down and try to avoid curious glances. I've become a paranormal shadow, haunting the pre-dawn hours when decent folk slumber. The coffee provides a momentary jolt, but reality quickly settles back in. I add a splash of whiskey from the flask in my bag to the cheap, bitter brew. As I sip, I watch a happy-looking couple enter the diner hand in hand. A pang of sorrow twists in my gut, realizing I've now spent more time without Daniel than with him. Our beautiful life together seems a distant dream. The couple slides into the booth behind me, laughing over some shared secret. I close my eyes, immersed in their muffled conversation, clinging to this faint echo of normalcy. For a brief moment I can imagine it's Daniel and I huddled in this careworn diner, whispering promises of adventures yet to come over steaming mugs. But my ghosts are never far behind. The woman's lilting laughter slowly distorts into a screeching cackle. I open my eyes with a start and look around in alarm, but the couple is chatting pleasantly as before. A crime show blares from the TV behind the counter, momentarily tricking my addled mind. I rub my temples, trying to clear away the dark visions creeping at the edges of reality. The sun is fully up by the time I step outside the diner, the morning haze already burning off. Another endless day looms ahead. I wander aimlessly down the sidewalk, unsure where I'm going.